Ooh, baby. It might be the weekend of the upsets as Robinson Castellanos pulls off a 7th round retirement TKO over Yuriorkis Gamboa. Gamboa got dropped twice in the fight. Almost got dropped 3 or 4 times, honestly. Like, he got dropped a couple of times. You know, there was one knockdown. I'm not sure if it was a knockdown or if it was legitimately a slip that got called a slip. Castellanos was landing the overhand right like nobody's business over Gamboa. Gamboa was, I mean, he didn't look like he was completely out of sorts. He looked like he was definitely trying to still apply his style the same way that he has done in recent years. You know, he definitely still looked like he still had his reflexes there and everything. It's just that he was just lunging in way too far from the outside. Castellanos is an upset special type of fighter. He's a guy that upset Ronnie Rios a couple years back, upset Rocky Juarez a couple years back. This past year, he wound up losing to Oscar Escandon by a 7th round knockout in a fight where he dropped Escandon, and then Escandon kind of came back in order to stop him. But it was a very tough, close fight between the two of them. You know, he upset Celestino Caballero, former super bantamweight and featherweight champion a few years back. Castellanos is Mr. Upset. You know, they call him Robin Hood. You know, stealing from the rich, giving to himself, giving to the poor, whatever. You know, and he went in there and he ran up on Gamboa, ran him for his title contention, basically. You know, this fight was held at 133 pounds, which is above Gamboa's best weight, but also above Castellanos' best weight. You know, Castellanos normally a featherweight, Gamboa normally a super featherweight. But really, really big win for Castellanos, man. Just, you know, it's an incredible victory. You know, he has one of these records like a Glenn Johnson, like an Orlando Salido. A bunch of losses, especially early on in his career. Maybe a couple of missteps recently as well against Rene Alvarado and Oscar Escandon. But, you know, this is a man who was one step away from getting a title shot at Gary Russell Jr. before Escandon managed to upset him and get that title shot, steal it away from him, basically. You know, Escandon's going to be fighting Gary Russell Jr. on May 20th, so don't be surprised if we see another upset special between Escandon and Gary Russell. Escandon is a very, very difficult fighter, tough fighter. Quick hands, quick feet, pressures you, high volume, really, really good fighter to watch. But Castellanos definitely did a job here on Gamboa, the same way that he did against Ronnie Rios, same way that he did against Rocky Juarez, stopping Rios and decisioning Juarez. And it was looking like it was pretty much going to be all over for Gamboa. Personally, I had Castellanos winning a majority of the rounds. I gave Gamboa the first round. I gave Castellanos the second. 2 close rounds, the first 2. Castellanos won the 3rd round 10-8. The 4th round 10-8 with the 2 knockdowns that he scored on Gamboa. Castellanos also won the 5th round on my card. I thought Gamboa came back really well in the 6th. Then Castellanos won the 7th. And then before the 8th round started, Gamboa decided to retire on his stool. So this may be the end of Yuriorkis Gamboa's, potentially his career, but at the very least his overall relevance at the top level of boxing. I mean, you know, at least before with Terrence Crawford, he always had the excuse of, you know, lightweight was too high in weight for me. It's too big for me. But here, you know, he basically lost to a featherweight. He lost to a 126 pounder. So that excuse isn't really going to fly for him, unfortunately. You know, it's really a shame that Gamboa kind of wasted a lot of time, wasted a lot of his talent, being on the brink and everything. You know, and I think a lot of that has to do with his former team. You know, between Caribe and Top Rank. You know, very, very bad news for him, very bad look for him. Somewhat similar to, you know, the way that Guillermo Rigondeaux kind of got treated in recent years. You know, it definitely didn't fare well for him in terms of keeping him active, keeping him on the tip of people's tongues. You know, keeping his name out there and keeping him up in the pound for pound rankings the way that he, you know, legitimately deserved to be a few years ago. Definitely fell from grace, and now has definitely fell from the overall rankings in terms of overall critical ability. And then on the undercard, as the co-feature, Jesus Rojas pulling off a big upset over, well, I mean, somewhat of a big upset. If you had paid attention to some of the programs that I'm on, I was saying that Rojas was going to be an extremely difficult fight for Abraham Lopez. I was saying that this might be a fight of the year candidate between these two. It was a very good fight. Rojas dropped Lopez once each in rounds 2, 4, and 8 before stopping him in the 8th round. Lopez did manage to go tit for tat with him, though. Lopez had a very good fight with him. They were trading rounds. I thought Lopez won the 1st, Rojas won the 2nd, Lopez won the 3rd, Rojas won the 4th, Lopez won the, you know, just like that, going back and forth, winning rounds. But, you know, with the knockdowns, it was looking really bad for Lopez, especially going into the 8th round out of 10. And Rojas is now the new WBA, NABA featherweight champion. You know, has a high ranking on the WBA, has a high ranking on the IBF and the WBO as well, I believe. So he's one to look out for, man. He might be one of these guys, along with Robinson Castellanos, two of the top featherweights on the planet, could potentially upset anybody and everybody in the featherweight division in the near future, whether it's the likes of Gary Russell or Oscar Escandon if he defeats Gary Russell, whether it's Oscar Valdez, whether it's Leo Santa Cruz, whether it's Lee Selby out there finally coming back at some point in the near future, hopefully. But, you know, two top-level fighters, really great card, definitely an underlooked card, and, you know, it just goes to show, you know, for kind of like I said in the recent video, you know, if you just do all of your work on BoxRec and you don't look to truly be on the lookout for some of these fighters that may be a bit under the radar, I think you're missing out on some great fights, some great potential talent, and some serious upsets, you know, some serious odds upsets in a major way. So looks like that's all I'm going to have for this one. I mean, big props to Castellanos pulling off the big upset against Gamboa. Big props to Rojas finally getting back into the mix, a guy that's been ducked, I think, for a number of years now, ever since his fight with Jorge Arce, which got stopped on no contest. But, you know, Rojas was looking like he was doing really good in that fight. You know, fought evenly against Jorge Lara as well, another absolute dangerous fighter at featherweight. And, you know, props to both of the winners tonight. You know, Gamboa, not sure if he's going to be able to come back. Lopez, I at least has the youth on his side to potentially come back in the future. First loss on his ledger. But we'll see what the future portends for both fighters. All four fighters, really. But that's all I got for this one. I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.